Welcome, curious minds, to the deep dive. Today we're taking a really fascinating journey back in time. We're opening up an ancient text from the Buddhist tradition, specifically the Bhaddālisuttaṃ.
That's right.
Our mission, really, is to unpack a foundational story, one that explores this intricate relationship between discipline, personal responsibility, and, ultimately, spiritual growth. We'll follow the story of a monk named Bhaddāli and the profound lessons he learns. And it's not just about rules, is it? It's about self-awareness, about how we actually make progress.
Yeah, and what's so striking, I think, is how this ancient wisdom gives us these incredibly relevant insights into our own, modern challenges, things like commitment, accountability, how we reach our potential.
Right.
We'll see how just one interaction, seemingly small, can light up these universal truths about, human behavior and transformation.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So we'll be extracting those key insights from the original text, showing you how even a simple-sounding rule can kind of ripple through someone's entire spiritual journey. Let's dig in and see what this deep dive means for you.
Okay.
So we begin with a very specific instruction from the Buddha. It's a recommendation for monks to practice eating only once a day. The text calls it ikasana pujana.
Right, kasana pujana. And the Buddha wasn't just being arbitrary here, He explicitly states the benefits.
Okay.
He talks about experiencing less sickness, less illness, lightness, strength, and just comfortable living. He's really encouraging the monks, saying, try this for yourselves.
But here's where it gets really interesting. This monk, Bhaddāli, he pipes up and says he cannot undertake to eat only once a day. And his fear, he says doing so would lead to regret and remorse.
Yeah, that immediate resistance. It's quite human, isn't it? That fear. And the Buddha, always compassionate, offers a practical compromise. He says, okay, eat a portion where you're invited and take another portion away to eat later.
A pretty reasonable solution, you'd think.
You would. Yet Bhaddāli still refuses, cites the exact same fears, regret and remorse.
Wow. So what happens next is pretty crucial, isn't it?
It really is.
Bhaddāli openly expresses his lack of enthusiasm for this rule, right as it's being laid down.
Yeah.
And then the text tells us he avoids the Buddha for, 3 full months?
3 months, yeah. He's described as one who does not fully complete the training in the teacher's dispensation. I mean, imagine that level of, non-compliance.
Right, from someone within the community. So fast forward 3 months.
Okay.
Bhaddāli finds other monks preparing robes for the Buddha, because the Buddha is planning to travel soon. And these monks, they gently advise him. They say, reflect carefully. It might become harder for you later.
It's a subtle nudge, isn't it? And it makes you wonder, what actually prompted Bhaddāli to finally act? Was it just that advice, or maybe the thought of the Buddha leaving?
Good question.
Whatever it was, we see him approach the Buddha. He confesses his transgression, calls it folly, delusion, and unskillfulness. And he earnestly asks for forgiveness and future restraint.
That's a big moment.
Yeah.
A moment of real accountability.
Absolutely. And the Buddha accepts his confession, but crucially, not without a significant teaching moment.
Okay. What's the teaching?
He points out Bhaddāli's lack of clear understanding of the opportune time.
The opportune time. That sounds like more than just, clock time.
Exactly. It's not just about timing in a simple sense. It's about recognizing that window, that moment when conditions are right for insight or for accepting a teaching or, importantly, for correcting a mistake before it gets harder to fix.
Okay, so missing that window has real consequences.
Big consequences. And the Buddha emphasizes the public impact, too. He says that he himself knew, and so would many monks, many nuns, many male lay followers, many female lay followers, even people outside the tradition, ascetics and Brahmins of other sects, in Savatthi.
Wow.
They'd all know that Bhaddāli, an elder disciple, was not fully completing his training. It really underscores how individual actions ripple outwards.
That's powerful. And then the Buddha uses that analogy, right, about the accomplished monk in the mud?
Yes, a really striking analogy. He asks, would an accomplished monk, someone highly attained, maybe liberated through wisdom and meditation, the text uses terms like upattabhagavemuto or panyavimuto, would that monk step into mud if asked?
And the answer is obviously no.
Obviously no, because, as the Buddha says, they are not empty, hollow, or erring. And the implication for Bhaddāli at that time is crystal clear.
That he was empty, hollow, and erring. Joel, that must have hit hard.
It must have. It really highlights the seriousness of his non-compliance. But, and this is so important, despite the strong reprimand, the Buddha accepts the apology.
Okay, that's key.
He declares, This is growth in the noble discipline, to see a transgression as a transgression and rectify it, and to undertake future restraint. It beautifully shows that growth comes from acknowledging faults and committing to change. It's not about never stumbling.
It's about getting back up and learning. So
Yeah.
Bhaddāli's story really zooms in on that individual struggle. But the text then broadens out, doesn't it, to connect discipline to higher states.
Exactly. It draws a very direct line. The Buddha contrasts two types of monks. First, there's the monk who does not fully complete the training.
Right.
Even if this monk goes off seeking solitude, forest, cave, under a tree, they're still criticized. Not just by the Buddha or other monks, but by deities, even by themselves.
By themselves.
Wow.
Yes.
And the text is explicit about the outcome. They do not achieve superior human states of the noble path. And the reason given, simply because they do not fully complete the training.
Okay, so the link is direct. But what about the monk who does complete the training?
Well, that's the flip side. They seek the same solitude, but they are not criticized. Not by anyone. Buddha, monks, deities, not even themselves. There's a sense of inner integrity.
And what happens for that monk? What do they achieve?
This is where it gets truly remarkable. They attain the 4 jhanas. These are progressively deeper states of meditative absorption characterized by, detachment, intense joy, profound peace, pure equanimity, really deep states.
Okay.
And beyond the jhanas, their mind described as composed, purified, and unblemished can then be directed to higher knowledges.
Higher knowledges like what?
Things like knowledge of past lives, knowledge of the passing away, reappearance of beings, sometimes called the divine eye, and ultimately the knowledge of the destruction of defilements.
The destruction of defilements. That sounds like liberation.
That is liberation. It leads to the mind being freed from all those things that bind us: sense desire, wrong views, craving for existence, ignorance. It culminates in that profound realization. Birth is destroyed, the holy life has been lived, what had to be done has been done, there is no more for the state of being, complete freedom.
In an incredible state. And the reason for all of this, the text says.
Because they fully complete the training in the teacher's dispensation. It couldn't be clearer.
So the takeaway for you listening seems pretty direct. This foundational discipline, it isn't just about following rules for rules' sake. It's the essential groundwork, the necessary preparation for unlocking those higher states of awareness and insight.
Precisely, whether that's spiritual insight or mastery in any field, really.
Right. Now, Bhaddāli, who seems to be listening more closely now,
He does seem more receptive, yes.
he asks another really insightful question. He asks basically, why are there fewer rules but more awakened monks back in the day compared to now, with more rules and fewer awakened monks? A practical question about how things change over time.
It's a great question, and one that probably resonates even today. The Buddha's answer gives us this fascinating look at, social dynamics within a spiritual community.
What does he say?
He explains that this happens when beings are in decline and the true Dhamma is disappearing, which sounds a bit stark, but the key point is that rules aren't just made up in advance.
Okay, they're not proactive.
No, they're reactive. They are laid down only when defilement-generating phenomena, basically, problematic behaviors or attitudes actually appear within the community. Once those things pop up, rules are created specifically to counteract them.
That's a really interesting perspective. Rules as responses, not just abstract commands. And he mentions when these phenomena tend to emerge.
Yes, he says they typically arise when the community grows large or when it gains status, things like gains, prestige, great learning, or even just seniority.
So success and growth can actually bring new challenges.
Exactly. It's an insight into how external factors can introduce internal complexities that need managing, which naturally leads Bhaddāli to ask how transgressions are managed.
Right. He asks why some monks who mess up are treated firmly, like the issue is really pushed until it's resolved while others aren't.
And the Buddha gives this incredibly nuanced breakdown. It's not one size fits all.
Okay, what are the scenarios?
He lays out 4 main types. First, you have the frequent offenders who are unrepentant. When they're confronted, they try to divert, they get angry, they refuse to confess properly.
Okay, defensive.
Very. And for them, the community handles it so the matter doesn't resolve quickly. It becomes a longer process.
Right, scenario 2.
Frequent offenders who are repentant. When confronted, they don't divert, they don't get angry, they act properly, they confess. For them, the community ensures the matter does resolve quickly.
Makes sense. Accountability leads to quicker resolution.
Exactly. Then third, occasional offenders who are unrepentant. Their reaction is similar to the first group, defensive, unwilling to confess properly. And again, the matter doesn't resolve quickly.
So frequency matters, but repentance is key for speed.
Precisely. And the fourth is the occasional offender who is repentant. Like the second group, they respond well, they confess, and the matter does resolve quickly.
Okay, that seems logical. But you mentioned a special case.
Yes, and this shows such deep compassion and wisdom. It's the monk with little faith or affection.
Little faith or affection, what happens with them?
For someone like that, if the community treats them too firmly, too harshly, they might just lose the little bit of positive connection they have to the path.
Ah, so you risk pushing them away completely.
Right. The Buddha uses this analogy of protecting a person's one good eye. You wouldn't risk damaging the only sight they have left. So these individuals are treated more gently, strategically, to preserve that minimal faith, that potential. It's about meeting people where they are.
That's incredibly insightful. A tailored approach to discipline. Now, bringing things full circle, the Buddha asks Bhaddāli about a previous teaching, doesn't he? The simile of the noble horse.
He does. He asks Bhaddāli if he remembers it, and Bhaddāli admits he doesn't.
And the Buddha knows why, right?
Yes, and this is quite a moment. The Buddha reveals, apparently through mind reading, that Bhaddāli didn't remember because back then he was not fully completing his training and, crucially, was not listening attentively during that teaching.
Wow. So the lack of discipline directly impacted his ability to even learn or retain the teaching.
Exactly. It powerfully underlines that true learning requires more than just physical presence. It needs active, disciplined engagement, full attention.
But the Buddha, being the teacher he is, doesn't just leave it there.
No, he offers to retell the simile, emphasizing again, listen attentively this time. It's another chance for Bhaddāli.
Okay, so what is the simile of the noble horse?
It's a beautiful illustration of the path to mastery, starting with the very basics. A skilled horse trainer takes a noble, spirited horse.
Right.
The training starts simply, getting used to the halter. The horse naturally resists at first, struggles and contortions, but the trainer persists with continuous and progressive training.
Okay, step by step.
Step by step, until the horse becomes well-behaved with the halter. Then the process repeats with the yoke, then other skills. Circling, pacing, jumping, speed, gait, manners. Each stage builds on the last.
It sounds like a very patient, gradual process.
It is. And once the horse has mastered even the ultimate speed, gait, and manners, becoming thoroughly well-behaved, the trainer bestows upon it dignity and strength.
Dignity and strength.
Yes. And such a horse, now possessing these 10 qualities born from discipline training, becomes fit for a king, worthy of royal use, a royal limb. It's transformed.
A transformation through discipline and the connection to the monk.
It's drawn directly. Just like that horse achieves royal status through training, a monk who cultivates 10 specific qualities becomes truly worthy of offerings, hospitality, gifts, reverence. They become, in the Buddha's words, an unsurpassed field of merit for the world.
A source of inspiration and good for everyone. So what are these 10 qualities, these aseka or higher training qualities?
They are essentially the culmination of the path. They are aseka of right view, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, right concentration. Those first 8 are the noble eightfold path, but now perfected, stable.
Okay, the perfected path. And the last 2?
Right knowledge and right liberation. These point to the direct knowing and the final freedom that result from perfecting the path. These 10 together are the hallmarks of a fully accomplished, liberated practitioner.
It's a complete picture of mastery, built block by block.
Yeah.
So this whole deep dive into the Bhaddālisuttaṃ, it really paints discipline not as some rigid, joyless thing, but as the dynamic, progressive path.
Absolutely. It's the foundation, the bedrock upon which real transformation, real liberation can actually be built, whether that's in ancient India or right here, right now.
And it really brings it back to you listening. It raises that question. What are those seemingly small acts of self-discipline in your own life? What's your halter training?
What small resistance, like Bhaddāli's initial reaction, might be holding you back from unlocking much larger potential, deeper insights? Where are you avoiding the training?
Yeah, think about it. Where in your own goals, maybe learning something new, mastering a skill, building a habit where might a bit more consistent effort, that basic haltered training, eventually lead to that kind of royal worthiness, that real mastery in your field.
The message seems pretty clear, doesn't it? Embracing the necessary training even when it feels difficult, acknowledging when we slip up like the Dalai did, and recommitting these aren't just old monastic ideas.
No, they feel like timeless keys, really. Keys to personal growth, to achieving genuine mastery on whatever path you choose. It starts with that first step, that willingness to engage with the discipline.
It really does. Understanding that the journey to profound change often begins right there.
Well, we hope this deep dive has given you plenty to reflect on, maybe some practical insights too. Until next time, keep digging deeper into the knowledge that helps you thrive.